Do I have the master switch here?
The master switch should be there.
I got it.
Right. Welcome. Let's call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting of Monday, December 19th at 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Having done that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now the public is invited to speak. Do we have any public that would like to make comment at this time? Seeing none, we have no public for comment. The session that's open for public comment is closed. We're moving right into departmental updates. And our first update will be from, I believe, the Health District before fire comes online. We have Charlie Brown from the Central Connecticut Health District.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, Charlie.
Okay. Hang on a second. Let me.
I hear you twice.
Yep. So where we are right now, as far as COVID and the other respiratory diseases, is all of the towns within the health district have seen increases in COVID in the last week or so. In addition to a very sharp increase in the number of influenza cases that we've been dealing with. Unfortunately, the cases for influenza have really been on a meteoric rise. We haven't seen these numbers this early in well over a decade. So it's very important, once again, for folks, if they haven't been vaccinated, to assure that they take the opportunity to do so. And with all of the respiratory diseases that we're seeing out there right now, just the basic public health prevention messages about washing your hands, cover your cough, stay home if you're sick. And really, it doesn't matter the type of disease that you're dealing with. If you're sick, you don't need to be bringing that into work or into the public, into other folks, especially those that are vulnerable. Very concerned today. We actually saw several 90-year-old plus individuals, residents within our 4 towns that are positive for influenza now, and it's spread amongst all 4 of our towns. So, there's vulnerable people. The population really does need the protection that we can provide them by doing the right things. So that's really where we stand right now. We're really concerned going into the holidays at the end of the week about the gatherings and the potential to spread. I just remind folks that, things that we did during the pandemic still work for every respiratory disease. So utilizing a mask, making sure, that you're doing all the right things is really going to help everybody within the community. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, and I am here to answer any questions.
Questions from Councilor O'Sullivan.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. A couple questions. So, a couple things about the transmission of COVID. So, really, one of the insidious things is you can get it from people who aren't presenting any symptoms at all just by breathing the same air. But on the other hand, my understanding is that so-called fomite transmission, which is touching surfaces, that really seems not to be a thing with COVID, even though we've had all these precautions about, sanitizing and hand washing and all. My understanding is that COVID, as compared to other viruses, is less susceptible to that type of transmission. So,
absolutely.
So it's safer in that sense, but it's worse in the sense of breathing air. So I'm going to circle around now. If you can contrast that or compare that with flu spreading. We know no matter what, you don't want people coughing and sneezing at you, but is flu, so 2 questions dovetailing with the 2 things I just said. Number one, is it like COVID in the sense that you can get it just breathing people's air, even if they're not presenting symptoms, or is the main thing symptomatic people? And secondly, with the touching the surfaces thing, even though COVID seems not to be as problematic, compare that with the flu, please.
Yep. So you did hit the nail on the head with respect to flu being much more surface oriented, and disinfection for surfaces becomes more important. COVID, we have found that, fomite transmission, so the surfaces is not as big of a transmission method for COVID. as what we see with the other diseases like RSV and flu. So flu can persist on hard surfaces much longer. COVID does not last as long on hard surfaces, and as you said, is more of an airborne virus. So with everything circulating all at the same time, we really have to employ every mitigation effort that we have in order to protect ourselves from any respiratory virus. So the basic message is, once again, that we give to everybody is washing your hands, because by washing your hands, any time that you're touching a surface, if you're washing a hand, you have the potential to pick it up, carry it to any of the mucous membranes, and then ultimately bring it in for you to be able to get infected. Staying home if you're sick, and then covering your cough so that you're not transmitting that through large droplets. COVID, once again, is airborne. So people that are symptomatic, if they are coughing, they are going to spread that as well as the flu. Flu doesn't quite travel as far as COVID because it's more of a large droplet type of scenario, where COVID, they found, is much more of an airborne particle type of scenario. So I hope I answered your questions with respect to that.
So with respect to airborne then on flu, again, is it mostly coughing, sneezing rather than just sharing airspace with people?
Coughing, sneezing, but you can be symptomatic with influenza prior to having those types of physical symptoms. It's not as high of a percentage as it is with COVID, but you can be symptomatic and spread it before you're actually obviously symptomatic. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Prakash?
Yeah, with respect to the graphs here, like some of them are like really stunning. Like some on page 44 of the report I've got here, it's like figure 2. It's like it's going up it's the incidence of lab positive influenza cases per 100,000. Does this include the cases which are not recognized by the state, or no?
No. So the only thing that you're getting for lab reported cases are those individuals that actually go into the doctor's office or urgent care. They get tested, and those get sent into a lab. So that's that actually get reported. So any rapid tests that are not sent to a lab generally are not considered in those numbers. So the numbers themselves that you see, as stunning as they are, the real amount of flu circulating in the community is probably much higher than that.
Wow. And do you have any numbers specifically on school age population?
Not at this point. For influenza, they're not required to report on this. For cases of flu, it's just anecdotal information that we get. We know that certain schools, like, for example, in Wethersfield, the high school is dealing with a lot of influenza. In Rocky Hill, haven't had a report from the superintendent here in the last week, but they were dealing with increasing cases after Thanksgiving.
Right.
So
yeah, it's kind of visible here after the Thanksgiving period. And I was going to ask you about that, not to cut you off, Charlie, but I think maybe you can, while you were gonna reflect on this a little bit, is it gonna stay up like this? Because it's been staying up for a while, like since like November, beginning of November. It's like it's way up, like for every town, Berlin, Newington, Rocky Hill, Wethersfield. It's like, and it's staying up. Is it gonna be staying up for a while? I mean, you have any guidance on that?
You're asking me to get out my crystal ball. And what we think, just because what we traditionally see in the holiday time period or after holidays, and when people have large gatherings, we see a rise usually the week after, just because it takes that long for people that have been infected for the virus to replicate and for them to become contagious and carry on from there. So we see a rise immediately following a holiday like Thanksgiving, where large gatherings happen, and then for the next week you'll see a rise, and then you may see a dip and it go down. What we're concerned about is, once again, coming into the holidays of Christmas and some of the other gatherings that happen around New Year's Eve and everything else, with folks that are showing up, and not, not considering that, not knowing that they're contagious, or just thinking that, oh, well, it's allergies or cold or what have you. Really using the opportunity to wear a mask if you're going into something where you have to. There's also an opportunity now for testing, for COVID especially. We're supposed to be getting tomorrow about a pallet of test kits for COVID that we're going to be distributing out to all of our towns, giving out to medical providers, just about every place that we can give them, so that people have the opportunity, before they go, if they're feeling like that they may have been exposed, or they may feel contagious or having symptoms, to test themselves, and if they do test positive, to do the right thing, to either postpone the event or take part in some other way.
So, by the way, just last question on this. We don't get any mortality data on this, right?
Mortality data? Luckily, we haven't seen, and I'm going to knock on wood here, we have not seen mortality from the flu within our 4 towns during this season as of yet. We have
the
gotten
state
one of
reported
the
plus
first
4.
COVID deaths in a while. We just got notified of that today. So, we haven't seen a lot of mortality with respect to COVID, but today we did actually get notified that we had one. It's very important, once again, the prevention methods, the things that we can do proactively to keep from spreading the disease, especially among those, who are immunocompromised, who may not be able to get vaccinated. I mean, it's that herd immunity that we all share the responsibility for that can really curb these type of outbreaks.
Makes sense. No, thank you, Charlie.
Great. I think, Charlie, I just noticed several cases in my acquaintances, and it seems like some folks have had relapses. You know what I mean? They think they're better. The initial hit wasn't so bad, and then it lays them up again for a week. Are you hearing that type of experience, or?
Well, I mean, with COVID especially, it can present itself in so many ways that, I'm not surprised that something like that happens, that, as people get better, and then all of a sudden they're starting to feel worse. What we've heard of also is just, co-infections, where somebody's had COVID and is down, and their immune system is fighting that particular pathogen, and then get exposed to another one like influenza. So the ability for our bodies to try to fight it off is much less. So you may see symptoms from that or RSV get picked up when you're down with another disease. So, I mean, we hear anecdotally,
for adults?
People that have been sick for weeks and weeks, but maybe from different viruses that their body's fighting off. Without definitive testing, it's really hard to tell exactly what people have.
The RSV for adults?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we're finding this year, and what you're going to see a lot of, is there's a combination test that's out now that tests for RSV, flu, and COVID all at the same time. So with doctors' offices and medical providers are using this test a lot more for adults, just to rule out what people have. So we're seeing numbers now for RSV among adults that we haven't seen previously, because generally they don't test for RSV among adults. But now with this combination test, it's a one shot, and we're seeing where those positive RSV numbers are getting picked up. So it's interesting from a public health perspective, because we have more data on this, but it may not, without having a longer time period, it's going to be hard to set a trend. Are we seeing more RSV, or are we seeing less? Right now, we're just seeing this for the first time among adults for the most part, just because we're testing for it now.
Sure. Thank you. Chiefs, does anybody have questions for Charlie? No. All right, we're good. Thank you, Charlie.
All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Y'all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe, stay healthy for me.
Thank you, Charlie.
Same back at you. Okay, fire. Chief Garahy.
Thank you. just go over the regular stats, then I have a couple other items. We responded to 61 incidents. I'll review that a little bit more. Training hours were 396. We'll go into that more. Our incidents for the year are 599. As you can see, they're a little bit less than last year, but as we discussed last year, we had a glitch in that total number. So that total number was accurate. So I think we're pretty close. We're right at where our 5-year average wants us to be. Training hours, they're significantly higher this year. Injuries reported were 0. The staffing's remaining about the same with 59 active members. We have that one cadet there, that one lone cadet is transferring to regular membership shortly. Our leave of absences, 1 administrative, 1 military, and 2 medical. We do have 1 member in the pipeline, which he actually came on last week. So you will see his number in that category next month. Retirements and terminations are both 0. Also in personnel, we promoted 1 member to a permanent lieutenant slot and a 2nd member to an acting lieutenant slot while the incumbent recovers from some surgery. Just want to hit these 2 subjects real quick. Under apparatus, truck number 2, which is on New Britain Avenue, it's the aerial bucket. The bucket itself is off the line. We are having problems with the leveling function of the bucket, so it's not safe to put personnel in there. The leveling valves were changed out today, and we're also finding there's an electronic issue with it. The factory's been consulted, and more to follow, but I anticipate it being back fully on the line by the end of the week. It is not off the line, it's still responding to calls, except we can't put people in the bucket. Okay. Let's see, the LAH reimbursement program's going well. As of today, we've billed a total of $41,500 to the state. Talking to the finance director last week, she is seeing checks come in quite regularly. We talked about a minute ago the training for the month. Now, our training topics included water supply, pump operations, fire attack, forcible entry. We got into some OSHA-required training with bloodborne, personal protective equipment usage and locations, vehicle extrication, and we reviewed hazardous material documentation. Additionally, our 3 members that are enrolled in the Firefighter 1 certification school are coming to the end. They will be having their final exam shortly. I want to say it's this Saturday coming up. No, it can't be this Saturday. It's in the next few weeks, and we hope to have 3 more there. We have 1 also testing to complete that, to complete Firefighter 1. So once this testing process is all done, we'll have 4 new certified firefighters. That brings us to about 99% in terms of certified firefighters. And we just had 2 members sign up for Fire Officer Level 1 certification. 4 members sign up for Firefighter 2 certification, and our last remaining member sign up for Firefighter 1 certification. So through this next round, we'll have everybody certified. And we are proceeding with a bunch of advanced certifications. Our officer development is going well, as previously stated. The goal is to ensure that officers and future leaders are receiving supervisory and management training. The training is provided outside the normal department training, not in lieu of, and it's held monthly. And we are continuing with manpower-based tactics. It's really going good. We have some simulation programs that are working out. Drone training was conducted in joint effort with the police department. That program's going well. I believe we had 2 call-outs for drone usage last month. We reported last month that the new multi-gas MSA meters were delivered. They have since been placed in service. We do have 1 new member in the pipeline and 2 cadets in the pipeline. And we continue to participate in the regional recruitment committee with our neighboring fire departments. Our public info people have been very busy. There's a list in the report, probably a little too extensive for me to read tonight. You do have the breakdown in our report of fire calls, okay, and that is the National Fire Incident Reporting System breakdown. There are 9 categories there. They're all pretty self-explanatory, but that just gives you a breakdown of the type of calls we're going to a month. Okay.
Counselor O'Sullivan.
No questions this time. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Counselor Prakash.
Chief, looks like we are doing well on the recruiting side.
We're getting there. I'd like it a little better, but yes, sir.
Yeah.
We are doing well.
Any goals like for the next year, or you seem to be happy with where you are in terms
I
of?
want to continue. I don't think we're ever happy where we are. We always want, that one bridge too far, or that one member that we haven't gotten yet, but we are continuing to try. We're looking at it more at a regional basis now, bouncing ideas off each other, what's working for one person, what's working for another, which is interesting because then we really get into the demographics of the towns, where Newington has almost 100 members. But their population and the way their town is, we've got a lot more industrial in our town, smaller population. So from an average, we're about the same. So we're starting to look at that, and also myself and the emergency management director have been floating the idea of doing some type of centralized volunteer recruitment point in town. There's a number of different town departments that rely on volunteers. What do you say, we bring them in, we talk to them, we interview, and see where they would best fit. Whether it's in CERT, or helping out at the senior center, fire. The Chief Custer's got a Explorer program. So we really want to look at that at the beginning of the new year and see if that would be helpful.
That's a really good idea, like just,
Sounds like a job fair, kind of
Yeah.
a volunteer job fair.
Exactly.
that's a really neat
Yeah,
idea.
there's just, we're going to start with a survey of who uses volunteers, and I think we're going to come up with a lot more departments that we even know about. Human Services, I'm sure, uses some.
Right.
The EMD, and I won't steal his thunder, but has talked about a CERT team, a community emergency response team. All of this.
So what we are talking about is not just public safety. You are saying like town-wide.
Yeah, town-wide for the town to
Yeah.
benefit the town municipality. And it just, it seems like the way to go now. And it's going to increase with word of mouth. Also, I think if we work with all the departments, their reach with public info and both social media is a lot greater than just our reach or just EMD's reach or EMS or the PD. So we combine all those reaches and we just gather more.
Right.
So that's the plan coming up.
Sounds good. Really excited about that. We'll love to hear more next year. Thank you.
Chief, on community outreach, is Santa's Express?
That always fell under EMS. We didn't really have anything to do with
Okay.
that, sir.
All right, okay.
So
We're not going to have a report from EMS tonight. Chief Goodrich is out.
Okay.
Okay.
I wish I had an answer, but I don't.
No, that's okay. And then we did have the pleasure together of giving that one proclamation out to Mr. Rossini
Yes, that was great.
Orsini.
Little Ronnie Orsini, yes.
Yeah, a young gentleman that happened along a fire in town, and so at the Board of Ed meeting the other night, we gave him a proclamation and some accolades and some gifts, and I think an application. For the
Well, it's not
volunteer
the
fire
application.
department.
We haven't seen it back yet. Wrapped it around the T-shirt, see how far that goes.
Thank you. So we'll skip ambulance. Chief Custer, please.
Sure. Okay, just some general monthly stats. We had 3,028 calls for service through the dispatch center in November. Criminal arrests totaled 35 for the month, 37 motor vehicle accidents, 32 of which were non-injury and 5 with injury. 8 DUI arrests for the month, 113 infractions issued, and an additional 176 warnings issued. Training hours were 315 for the month. In terms of just some trending criminal activity in the town, there were 3 motor vehicle thefts for the month, and now that we're 11 months into the calendar year here, we're running basically in that category pretty much similar to 2021. So things have kind of somewhat gone back to normal in that regard. Catalytic converter thefts, there were 5 for the month, and generally they have been trending down. Those sporadically you can get hit, and I just heard tonight that we did have a couple recently in town, so it's still happening, but happily not in the numbers that we saw, obviously, in 2021. Motor vehicle traffic stops are much higher than they were the last 2 years. A lot of that, obviously, because of the full staffing that we have now. And one other thing I noticed, 11 months in, that the criminal arrests were higher thus far this year than last year. And I suspect a big piece of that is because the motor vehicle stops are up, and oftentimes people are wanted, and generates a lot of additional criminal arrests outside the motor vehicle stop. Calls for service, we're running generally a little bit higher than last year. We finished at 41,009 last year. I think we're going to be about 43, 44 once the December numbers come in. But we'll have full accounting after December for the next report. In terms of staffing, still working on those 2 dispatcher vacancies. We finished the testing process. 5 candidates were identified as eligible candidates for the position. I interviewed the number 1 candidate and made a conditional offer to that individual. It is a certified dispatcher with another town who wants to come here. So we've begun their background, and hopefully everything goes well as I anticipate. That person should be on staff February 1st, the latest. The number 2 candidate will be coming in about mid-January, and I'll interview them. Hopefully that goes well. We can make a conditional offer. I want to separate the 2 so the trainers don't get creamed with 2, new applicants at the same time. So I'll keep you posted on that. But 2 highly qualified and capable candidates, we should do well there. I have 1 officer out on injury leave, and another 1 officer out on light duty. Those are both the result of on-the-job injuries, shoulder injuries. They had to have surgery. So they're going to be out for another month or so, and then they'll be back. In terms of community service events for the month, so for the month of November, majority of the officers decided to participate again in the No Shave November. We did that last year. It was very successful, and they wanted to do it again this year. And basically, No Shave November is a fundraiser for the Connecticut Cancer Foundation, and 100% of the money goes to Connecticut cancer patients here in our state. The officers were able to raise $3,400 for the Cancer Foundation, so kudos to them. They did another great job. And then they hit me up with another idea. They said, Chief, how about if you let us go another month for the month of December? We'll donate additional monies, and those monies will go to the Human Services Food Bank. And so I agreed, and they raised and presented to the Human Services Department a check for $2,000 as a result of that effort, all to go to the food bank. So I thought it was a great idea, and they get to wear a beard for an extra month. Let's see. Additional community service events on November 11th. Griswold Middle School had their annual Veterans Day fun run at Elm Ridge Park, and our school resource officers participated in that. It's a run that the school has to raise awareness and remember our veterans on Veterans Day. November 11th, officers in the Police Honor Guard participated in a ceremony, Veterans Day ceremony on the town green. And on the weekend of November 11th through the 12th, officers, namely Lieutenant Gutsfeld, Sergeant Morgan, Detective Bongiovanni, and Officer Karras, participated in the Special Olympics Super Plunge, which benefits Special Olympic athletes. And basically, the Super Plunge is an event where the participants plunge into cold water 1 time per hour for a 24-hour period. And again, they did this for 24 hours straight, and that team raised $10,300 for the event. So they did a tremendous job. And again, all funds go directly to Special Olympic athletes in Connecticut. On the 15th of November, officers participated in the first Alice drill at West Hill School. And after the drill, the officers met with the kids in their classes. They read books to the kids and were there generally to answer questions about school safety, about lockdown drills in general, because these are younger kids. That went well. On the 18th of November, the Craig Magnet School invited officers to the school for a tour, and the student action team there donated free pies to the police officers as part of their recognition of local first responders. And last but not least, on the 30th of November, officers participated in an event with the VFW. It was basically a traffic stop simulation event for individuals with autism. Officers spoke with parents and individuals affected by that, explained how our procedures and strategies are different when dealing with those types of motor vehicle stops. Okay, so that's it for the community service events. I have an update on the LPR camera system in town. So we've been in communication with Recor, the company that's handling that for us. And as I reported last month, we were down to about a handful of poles that we were waiting to get approval from. Basically, we need to get approval from Eversource and Frontier, because sometimes they have equipment on these poles that interfere, the cameras will interfere. So we had 5 left. There was a problem with them. We found alternate poles to use instead. Everything was signed off, I'm happy to report, and Recor has told us that the project is scheduled to begin on January 4th. So that's good news. And I'll keep you posted on that. That should be up and operational by summer in town. Gateway.
In January, Chief?
They're going to start January 4th.
January
It's
4th.
going to take a little time to mount everything, but should be up and running by summer. And then the last thing I had is on December 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., officers, maybe fire personnel too, I heard, are going to be at Main and Elm Street for those 4 hours to conduct a coin drop, which is similar to the boot drop that the firemen have, again with additional monies going to the Connecticut Special Olympics. So our officers found out they're about $400 short from being in the top 10 fundraisers for law enforcement agencies. They do a commemorative T-shirt, and the department's name is on there. So they're determined to get past that $400 threshold. So we'll be out there December 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. For that event. They'll be carrying buckets marked Special Olympics. And that's all I have.
Councilor O'Sullivan? So, Chief, just one thing on the license plate readers. I saw something in the news within the last couple of days about bad guys deliberately concealing or mangling or defacing license plates as a way of trying to thwart the readers. Are there countermeasures for that? I mean, we don't want you to give away any state secrets here, but how do you, what can you publicly reveal by way of dealing with that?
Let me acknowledge that what you read is true, and it is problematic. In terms of go-arounds, we're looking into that. But yeah, just a simple film covering on the plate can be enough to alter, so the reader can't pick it up. So yeah, we've run into that on a couple of cases.
Are you allowed to use that as a primary reason to make a stop?
That in and of itself wouldn't be enough.
So is that something that maybe the law needs to be changed then? So it seems to me then with license plate readers becoming more prevalent, and now deliberately when you see mangled license plates as a phenomenon for trying to get around that, it seems to me that makes mangled and defaced license plates more suspicious maybe than they used to be, and maybe that should be primary cause for a stop.
So I would agree with you. It's certainly more suspicious. And we get intelligence on this, and it's shared with the whole department. And, they've been informed of it, and you hit it on the head. It is cause for more suspicion. But that in and of itself, unless you couldn't read it, you could do a stop based on that. The other thing we're seeing recently through intelligent briefings is vehicles, in this case ATM thefts, the getaway car, so to speak, bike racks that cover the plate. So a bike rack, with bikes wouldn't normally draw your attention. And now down in Fairfield, they've had some incidents with individuals doing this, so that would be another potential cause for suspicion, seeing a vehicle like that. You would look for other elements, obviously.
Right.
But, they're figuring out that there are ways to beat the cameras, like everything else, so.
Well, I guess just my thing is if the law as written is an obstacle to that, like you're barred from using it as a primary, cause to pull over, to make a stop, let us know, or we could try to relay that to our state legislators, and if it's something that needs to be debated at the state level to change the laws under at least some circumstances, that could give you grounds, standing alone for a stop. It's at least something worth discussing, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's something we're going to have to address with our association, and that might be something we need to look at, because it does seem to be popping up a little bit more than it has.
Okay. All right. And now, flipping the script a little bit to something a little more positive, I see from the thefts from motor vehicles, it seems like generally a 6-month downward trend from past years, except for one spike in August.
Right.
I think you had a multi-catalytic converter theft incident there that kind of skewed the data for that 1 month.
Absolutely.
So putting that one aside, so generally, it seems to me, I know we don't want to overreact to 1 month, but it seems to be most of 6 months is enough to qualify as a little bit of a trend. Is that mostly a reduction in catalytic converter thefts, aside from that 1 month, or are there other things going on in terms of, a reduction there?
Mostly the catalytic converters, and we've seen that downward trend since about August. And we talked about it last month. I think it's a combination, the omnipresence in town, but the regional task force really locked up a lot of people. And then you had the state legislation that went into effect. I was a little skeptical, but it seems to have some impact, because across the board, and talking with my colleagues, they've seen a dip as well. So maybe combined, all of those elements have contributed to the trend. So let's hope it continues.
Good year. Thank you, Chief.
Councilor Prakash.
No, this is all good, very good information, Chief. Thank you. And I just wanted to go back to a couple of months ago, we had this incident at the school. There was this individual, I think it was the indecent exposure thing.
Yes.
Do you have any updates on that?
Yes, and no updates, which is actually, I guess, a good update, right?
Right.
We had information on the car. We had a description of the individual. There was a plate on the car, was not registered to that vehicle. And one of the problems we had, without getting into too much deal, was the issue we just talked about.
Right.
So, car just basically fell off the grid.
There's nowhere to be seen,
Yeah,
which is
but
good.
But I should add that the car was located in the school parking lot on one occasion. Officers boxed the car in, almost was able to apprehend the individual. He hit it in reverse and was able to get out. This is the only place he could go. I think it scared him. We have not seen the car since. Nothing to report. Nothing showed up on any of the readers in the metro area. So,
So at least we didn't apprehend him, but we scared him enough not to be. I don't know where he is, or whatever, but
yeah, I mean,
at least he's not here.
it's the second best option, right? If you can't get the individual, if we scared him away, I don't think he's in Rocky Hill. If he is, he could be in another car, but we've been watching every day. There's been nothing since that incident.
Yeah.
So, thanks for asking.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
Chief, on the Hartford Task Force, we actually kick in after the first of the year with our renewed support and presence.
Funding, yes.
Yep.
So, we're discussing what we want to do with that money. We've been, last year we did a lot of high visibility uniform patrol in the hotspots. The detective commander has approached me and has a desire to use maybe some unmarked plainclothes details in some of these areas instead. So that's what we're discussing right now, and I think we'll probably do a combination of the two.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Emergency management.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to add to the COVID update, as Charles Brown mentioned from the Central Connecticut Health District, either late tomorrow or Wednesday, we're going to be receiving up to 460 test kits. Those kits are short-lived. They only have a life until mid-February. So we're going to use those internally, and then at the beginning of the February month, whatever we have, we will start to give out to the public so that they don't go to waste, so to speak. And the Central Health District is looking into availability for municipalities for more test kits at no charge. Right now, if we wanted test kits, we had to go out and purchase those on our own. I don't know if you've seen the news, your healthcare providers are now providing them at no cost. So we're hoping to get that same situation and get updated test kits. So we'll have more on the COVID as we go forward. Department updates, the applications for certs team will be available online after January 1st. I'm working with IT. We'll have an electronic application. We're going to go pretty hard on the social media aspect and try to raise those applications. As the fire chief mentioned, one of the goals before we started this CERT team, I went to the in-town departments, Health and Human Services, as well as Senior Center, Library. And one of the biggest goals that we're going to try to do is round those people out so that they're constantly involved in the town, and when there is an emergency, they can step up in the emergency role. Like I said, after the first of the year, we're going to start really marketing that, and by March, I hope to have a good amount of personnel to that. We've updated the emergency website with preparedness flyers for the fall and the winter months. Working with facilities and buildings, as well as the police department in numbering town hall, trying to meet the request at the last safety meeting that individual had brought up. We met as a group, we had some discussion, and we're going to come up with a letter and a number, T for Town Hall, C for the community center, and then we'll match it with a number, and we'll figure out identifying Town Hall so that all exits will be marked. Additional working with facilities on ID cards and electronic access points. We have a conference call tomorrow morning with our phone vendor to help get the messaging out in an emergency. When we activate the panic buttons and things like that, there'll be an automated emergency message. And we're looking at getting a digital message to be able to put on the computers as well as on the phones that says that there's an emergency. EMD current projects, like I said, working on CERT right now. We'll be holding the quarterly workshops in the EOC. We're planning our summer drill, so we have one event every year that we will be practicing the emergency management on. And that'll be held in the third quarter of the year. We'll discuss it in the first and plan it in the second. We completed the FEMA Basic EMD course through EMI, which is the Emergency Management Institute out of DC, and we've got accreditation on that. I completed the basic, and I was accepted into the advanced class, which we'll do in 2023. We're doing the FAA drone pilot class. That's still in work. Last month's activities, we had one plan submitted review that we did a walkthrough of a property to test safety and security in conjunction with advisement of the police department. There were no emergency activations last month, and we had 3 weather-related notifications, which you guys have received notification on. And that's the report.
Councilor O'Sullivan?
No questions. Thank you, Steve.
Councilor Prakash?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Tabletop emergency, when is the next one of?
We're going to probably have that in the third quarter, which will be late summer, possibly. We're going to meet in February to discuss what we want to plan, and then we'll plan it for the April, May, the second quarter meeting, and then the third quarter we'll hold it.
Yep. And will the health district be contacting you about they have a distribution of test kits according to Charlie?
Yeah, that's the same one.
That's the same one, okay.
That's what we're working on. So we're going to get those late tomorrow or early Wednesday, and we'll start getting them out to the department heads for internal use to begin with.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure.
There's no old business. New business, we've already had the health district's report on flu and COVID. In the packet is the 2023 meeting dates. Do we have to make a motion to accept that, or did we already do that? We already did that.
I think we did in the council meeting.
Dan,
no?
is that for us to move?
No, it's separate for each committee.
Okay, so we need to have a motion.
You have to do that.
Yeah, make a motion to accept the committee meeting dates, public safety committee meeting dates for 2023.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, pass. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right. Good night.
Aye.
Thank you.